there, my name is Emily, and I'm on the events team at the Ann Arbor District Library. And today I'm going to show you a really easy paper craft that you can use to decorate your house. And this is great because it can be used for holidays. It can also just be used to spruce up your decor. And I'm going to show you how to make a decoration that you can hang from something, as well as a decoration that you can just sit on a table and it'll look really nice. So I'm going to move my camera here so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to tell you all of the supplies that you'll need. Okay, so what we want for this are sheets of paper that are square. They can be squares of any size. So what I've done for this is taken an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and cut it into an 8.5 inch square by trimming 2.5 inches off of the long edge. But really you can use a 12-inch square, you can use a 3-inch square, it doesn't matter as long as the paper is square. That's all that counts. And I've got a few different colors here. I do have some white. I have a few shades of pink here and a few shades of green because I thought those would be nice spring colors. Other things you'll be needing. This is what's called a bone folder. This is a bookbinder's tool. You don't actually need to have a bone folder. You can use a pen, you can use the handle of a pair of scissors, really anything that is going to help you just fold paper and make really nice creases in it. So that is one thing that you're going to need. Another thing that you'll need is something to punch holes. So I've got an awl here. If you have a hole punch, either a single hole punch or a 3-hole punch, that works great. I don't have a single hole punch, so I'm just going to go ahead and use an awl to make a hole in my paper. You want some glue, and I just have a jar here of some paste that I've made. I use it for bookbinding. You can use glue sticks, you can use Elmer's glue, any glue that you have around the house. It doesn't really need to be very flexible or strong. You'll also need a brush for applying the glue, and you'll want a brush that's pretty stiff. So this is an acrylic brush. You could use a bristle brush used for acrylic or oil. You just don't want like a really, really soft and floppy watercolor brush. This is a brush that's 1 inch thick. That's a good size. A little bigger or a little smaller will work. You want some string or thread or yarn, really anything. I'm just going to use this linen thread because that's what I happen to have at hand. But yeah, you could use yarn, you can use kitchen twine, anything that works for you, just any kind of string you have sitting around. And lastly, you'll just want some waste paper. And so this is waste paper that's printed on one side. It's in a pad, and I found it. And I'm just going to use this to help with gluing, and I'll show you how that works when we get to it. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be folding a bunch of sheets of paper, and then we're going to be gluing them together. And if you want to do a hanging ornament, you'll probably want to do 3 or 4 sheets of paper and glue them together. If you want something that looks nice sitting on a table, you'll probably want to do 5 or 6. And I'm going to show you how this fold works. All right. So this is what's called the Turkish Map Fold, and it is a fold that's actually used for maps. And in fact, I'm going to reach over here and show you an example. This was a library program we did several months ago where we made fantasy maps, and then we bound them into little books. But so this is what the actual fold itself looks like. So it's great because it can fold almost flat, and it folds back on itself really easily and compactly. And again, this was made with a bigger square. I believe this was a 12-inch square, but any size of square will work as long as it's not too small for you to actually physically fold. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is fold my paper in half. Just make sure I've got my corners lined up. And I'm going to hold it down with my fingers toward the edge here, and then I'm going to come in with my bone folder and crease it that way. And that just really helps the paper stay still while you're folding it, so you get a nice fold. Okay, so you want to stand this up like a little tent. And it's important to note that if you have a pattern on one side of your paper that you would like to show, you want the pattern to be on the outside. If you've already folded it in the other direction, that's fine. You can just flip it around. All right, so I got my little tent here. So I'm going to now do a diagonal fold corner to corner. And again, just make sure my corner looks lined up nice and neat. Come in with my bone folder and crease it down. Get my awl out of the way here. Open it back up and do the same thing on the other side. Just line up my corners here. Now, if it's going a little fast for you, that's fine, because I'm going to do this a bunch of times. You're going to see me fold this a bunch of times. All right, so now I've got my paper, and if I unfold a little bit, I see, you can see there, that I've got 2 triangles on the top, 2 little triangles on the bottom, and then I've got these 2 big triangles on each side. I'm going to take those big triangles and hold on to them like I would a book, and I'm going to close them together to make a triangle like this. Again, I've got my little triangles on the top and bottom. I've got my big triangles here. I'm going to grab them like I would a book and close them together. And then I'm just going to go over that whole thing with my bone folder, just so it'll lie a little flatter. Okay. So if you look at the bottom edge here, you're going to see where my 2 points have come together on the inside here. And so I'm going to take, see, I've kind of got these 4 flappy corners here. I'm going to take each of these corners and take the tip of it and fold it in so it meets that center line. And again, so I just fold it over, I hold it down with one finger, I bring my bone folder over, and I crease it. And I move on to the next one again. So taking my tip, I'm going to fold it over till it meets that center line. Don't mind my shaky hands, they always shake. And then come over here again with my bone folder and crease that well. A third time, take the tip here and hold that down and fold it with my bone folder. Make sure I got that one lined up. Now, if you already do origami, some of these folds may be very familiar to you already. And then finally, I'm going to take my last corner and fold that in. Okay, so now I've got this kind of weird looking shape with these little flaps sticking out. I've got 4 of these little flaps sticking out. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my piece a little ways, and I'm just going to take each one of those corners and I'm going to tuck it inside. And I like to get in here with my fingers and just like really crease this well so it lies flat. So again, open this up a little bit and tuck the corner inside. And I'm going to do that for all 4 of my corners. And there we have it. That is our map fold. So it kind of looks like a little house, and I'll talk about that later. But this is the shape that you're going for. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a couple more of these. and then I'll talk about how to glue them together. right. So now I have my 4 springtime green folded sheets of paper. And so what I want to do is I want to arrange them kind of from lightest to darkest. So they'll look like this together. So now I want to grab my waste paper, and you really want to be using the blank side of a sheet of paper. It can be printed on the other side, that's fine. I wouldn't recommend using newspaper, and that's because the ink comes off very easily and could get on your project. So any, like the back of junk mail, anything like that, that's great to use. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tear a sheet of waste paper in half. So I'm going to make sure that I've got my my folded piece of paper on my waste paper, and that, again, remember, it looks like a house, got a roof and then the kind of the body of the house. I'm going to take my other sheet of waste paper and I'm going to cover up the roof, so just the base of the house, just the rectangle is visible. I do not, right, and that's going to keep us from gluing the roof of the house, which we don't want. We want to keep that unglued. So now I'm going to take my glue and my brush, and you don't need a whole lot, a very, very light layer. You will probably not even be able to see on the camera how much glue I'm putting on because it's a very light layer. And go all the way up to the edges. Don't be afraid to go all the way up to the edges. That's what the waste paper is for. Okay, so I'm going to set my glue aside over here. I'm just going to get rid of this sheet of waste paper that can now go away. And I'm going to take, I'm also going to move this, I'm going to take the sheet that I wanted to be beside this lightest one, and I'm just going to, as carefully as I can, line it up, which is kind of the hardest part. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, and then I can just kind of use my bone folder and just really make sure that that glued surface is making very good contact. So now I'm just going to get rid of that other sheet of waste paper as well. Okay, so starting again. Half of my sheet of waste paper. And that's why it's good to plan out what you're doing in advance if you're using different colors, just so you can have a plan in your head for which sides you want to have glued to each other. So I know that this is the next sheet of paper that I want to glue down. So again, taking my sheet of paper and covering the roof of the house, just putting a little bit of glue on my brush and a very light, even layer, brushing it all the way out to the edges. Okay. And again, see, I'm not even sure if you can see, maybe you can see the sheen on that. It's just a very, very little bit of glue. I'm going to take my next paper and I'm going to do the same thing, where I try my best just to line it up here. Using some glue that isn't super, super sticky, it can be really helpful, so you can reposition it if you don't get it to the place you want. And again, just using my bone folder there to make sure there's good contact. Get that out of the way. And this one too. The hardest thing about the waste paper is remembering to remove it as quickly as you can. Okay, and one more. All right. So this is my last one. This guy is going to go on here. So covering up the roof of the house again. Okay, that looks good. Getting that waste paper out of there. Okay. All right. Are you ready for the moment of magic? Okay. So if I want this to be sitting on my counter, a little glue in here, that's fine. A little glue in here too, that's also fine. Hold on a second. It's okay if you get a little glue in the folds. Just go through and check all of them. If there's a little glue like this holding it together, just pull it apart gently. It'll be okay. If you do that within the first few minutes of putting the glue on, it will eventually not stick to itself. Okay. Here we go. So I would like to hang this one up. So this is what it'll look like hanging. So what I'm going to do now is I did not glue the side of this or the side of this. So that means that this can fold back down when I'm done with it. That's why these are great holiday decorations, because you can have them up, and then once you're done with them, you just fold them together. And there we go. So if I wanted to make a tabletop one, I would probably want to use 2 more sheets of paper, but I think 5 or 6 is good for the tabletop. But I would just sit it on my tabletop like that, and I think that looks pretty cool. Okay, so now, I think maybe get back up here a little bit. So now I'm just going to kind of wing this. I'm going to hold the 2 unglued sides together, and I'm just going to very gently pierce them with an awl without piercing myself. So if you only have something like an awl and kids are doing this, adults, you probably want to help out with this part. Okay, but you see I've just made a little hole right here that I can thread some string through, so I'm just going to let that go for a second. And I don't know, maybe just 2 or 3 feet of string like this. It would be really nice, like if you had yarn that really complemented the colors of your pages, or if you had some really nice decorative ribbon, that would be really cool. I've just got my plain white string. And so I'm just going to make sure that I've got my holes lined up, and I'm going to just thread my string right through there. And I'm just going to tie a very simple knot at the top. Nothing fancy. Okay. Let's see if you can see the whole thing here. Ooh, let me get that out of the way. There you go. So you can hang this from your ceiling. I could see hanging this from a bookshelf or maybe the side of a staircase. These are, again, they're really easy to make, and you can make them very small, you can make them very big. And what I love about them, again, is that when you're done, you can just take them down, fold them up, and use them next year. So I hope that you will be able to use these crafts to beautify your home while you're spending time together in quarantine. So thanks so much for joining me for this craft.